Hello, so I'm Samina, and this is the second video I'm doing for the Being Seen challenge that I started earlier on in the beginning of January. And I have to say that it's not going very well because my idea was to post a video every week until I totally tackled this whole sort of, well, why is it so difficult to speak in public? Why is it so difficult to get in front of a camera and talk? Why is it so difficult to just be in the public eye, or not in the public eye so much, but speaking to more than one person at a time, or to people who aren't your close friends. So yeah, it's not going very well because it's been what, three weeks, I think 3 or 4 weeks since I did the last video, because I just couldn't pluck up the courage to do another one. It's just like, but today I said to myself, no, come on, you have to do it, you have to do it, doesn't matter. So in the first video, I spoke about some of the reasons why I find it difficult to speak in public. And it's because of the beliefs I have about the way I present myself. So things around the fact that when I'm feeling passionate about something, and I tend to talk very fast. And I think that makes me look a bit silly. Also the fact that sometimes when I speak, things come out and it's not really what I intended to say when I started speaking, because I'm just thinking out loud. Whereas I would really prefer to know what I want to say and then articulate it in a way that represents exactly what I intended it to. And then other things like the fact that, I go off on tangents and I ramble, and I'll start a sentence and I won't finish it before I move on to the next sentence, all these sorts of things. And I'm going to be 40 this year, so it's not like, oh, well, I haven't had enough practice speaking and I'll get better eventually. I have to accept the fact that actually this is me, this is the way I am. I do go off on tangents, I do ramble, and I don't finish a sentence. And it's like a case of, how do you get confident and comfortable enough to get out there and say, all right, well, despite all that, I'm still going to get up and I'm still going to speak and I'm still going to be confident speaking in front of people. So we had Awaken the Goddess Festival a couple of weeks ago now, and obviously as I host the event, I have to speak in the opening circle, and I find it excruciatingly difficult. And actually, it was lovely this time because, as hard as I found it, there were some women there who really sort of interacted, and it became almost a conversation. So rather than me standing at the front speaking, we were just talking to each other, and they were telling me stuff about, their perceptions of what I was saying. And I was talking about previous festivals, and they were like, actually, no, this is how we felt about it, and we thought it was like this and that and the other. So it was really lovely. And someone said something that was really interesting. She said that, the changing and the sort of the ebbs and the flows of, you anticipate going in one direction and then it changes into something else. So this idea of, I start a sentence and don't finish it and jump into something else, for example, we weren't talking about that at the time, but I'm relating it to that, is actually the feminine and how the feminine works, this flow. And also I saw this a vocal coach called Jen. I only saw her once because then we had this boiler issue and I had to fix the boiler, so I didn't see her again. But I intend to get back to her. And she said something really interesting the first time I spoke to her. She said, because I was talking about, I'm not really comfortable because I ramble and I do this and I do that, and I want to be articulate and I want to be clear when I speak. And she said, well, actually, I don't really think that's something to aspire to. I'm paraphrasing. She didn't say exactly like this. She said, I don't think that's something that you should aspire to because, being able to get on stage and just say whatever comes out, and it might not be, you know, a straight line, but it's magical anyway, and you might not resonate with anyone, but you resonate with the right people, just a few people, and they're the right people. So like I say, it was not exactly like that, but along those lines that she said. And and I thought, actually, yeah, that's good, but I still want to be, you know, that sort of perfectionist in me still wants to be able to get up and say things and be commanding, and people think, wow, isn't she a good speaker? I agree with everything that she said, you know. And even now I'm feeling like, oh, how many minutes of this video have I wasted completely rambling and not actually getting to the point? And part of me is thinking, well, do I really have a point now? Because I don't know that I do. Because it was so interesting after when I posted the last video, there were some comments that really resonated with me. And one of them was, actually, I'll say the second one first. So it was someone, Hippie Boutique, and she said that someone said to her that her imperfections, I wrote it down actually, let's have a look. Someone said to her, your imperfections are beautiful. And this idea that we're beautiful or we're lovable because of our imperfections, not despite them, but because of them, isn't that like what we all say that we want in like a partner, someone who loves us because of all of our flaws and all of our imperfections? And it's so strange that we want that from a partner, but we don't give that to ourselves. Like, we don't love ourselves with all our imperfections and because of all our imperfections, and just laugh at ourselves and say, oh, well, you know, like when you laugh at a child who does something completely ridiculous, and you feel so much affection towards them because of that, or anyone who you love, like a dear friend. Or sometimes my husband does the most ridiculous things, and as long as it's not the week before my period, usually I find it quite funny, no matter how irritating it is. You know, there's a part of me that does find it funny. So I thought that was really interesting, and that's really sort of got me thinking about this idea of, how can you want someone else to love you with all your imperfections and all your flaws if you're not prepared to embrace the whole of yourself? And the other one of the other comments, it was, and we ended up having a conversation around this whole sort of the idea of women being, or girls being, socialized by society into seeking external validation rather than internal validation. And it is so true that I do believe that women do seek external validation a lot more than men do. And I think there's an awful lot around this to unpick, but part of it, I think, from what I've read, so I mentioned it in my last video as well, I think, a book called The Female Brain. And that does say that, you know, our brains are wired differently. We're a bit more sensitive to others and the reactions of others. So we're hardwired a little bit more to gauge people's reactions to what we're saying and what we're doing and how we're behaving. And then also, yeah, the whole socialization as children thing. I remember I was very much, my brother was allowed to be a tearaway and to do like loads of stupid things, but I very much had to please my parents, my father in particular, because being a girl, I was supposed to be a certain way and supposed to behave a certain way, and not supposed to do, like, I wasn't allowed to whistle, I wasn't allowed to run in the street after a certain age, all these things that were not acceptable for me to do as a woman, which or as a girl, which kind of teaches you that you have to behave a certain way in order to get approval, or to not cause disapproval, rather. Whereas my brother could tear about, do what he want, go where he want, run, scream, shout, sing. I wasn't allowed to sing. He could do what he wanted. And then I thought to myself, how damaging is that? Because as women, if we are constantly seeking external validation rather than internal validation, external validation is just so fleeting, right? I just give you a small example. So I've done a few training courses for work. Attended them, and I'll be thinking different things, and some the facilitator will say something that resonates with me, and I'll either be frowning or I'll be smiling, and it's not necessarily a reflection on what they're saying. It's sort of, I'm reflecting on a memory, or something has clicked for me, and I've thought about my behaviors or something, and it's made me think, oh, so the male facilitators never really notice. They never sort of respond to any reaction on my face, but very often the women will, and they'll say, I remember there was one thing in particular. It was about the change process, and something really resonated with me, and it made me think of something. Now I understand why I did this. And I was frowning at the time, and the woman said to me, who was doing the training, said to me, oh, do you not agree with that? Do you not understand, what's going on there? I can see that, there's something going on. And I was like, oh no, actually, I just I agreed with what you said. It hit home. So to me, my external picture, my face, was presenting something internal that was going on. But as a woman, she was seeking that external validation of her sort of training. And fair enough, yeah, she is, she's there to understand and to sort of absorb what what the attendees are taking in and stuff like that, and to analyze that. But I believe it goes deeper to the core of us seeking this external validation. So I guess what I'm trying to, this is part of why I hate doing the public speaking, because I'm not getting my point across very well. I'm persevering anyway, though. So what I'm saying is that because she perceived my expression to be something that it wasn't, so she thought that, I'm not agreeing with what she's saying. I don't agree with the point, whereas something completely different was going on in my head. So this whole facial expression wasn't about what she was doing or what she was saying. It was my reaction to my thoughts, my reactionary thoughts to what had clicked in my mind to what she had said. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're seeking approval or validation from other people, their reactions are most often not really based on you and what you're doing. It's based on what they're remembering of a trigger. I don't know if that makes sense. Their reaction might not be based on what you've done. It might be based on the fact that actually it's triggered something for them, or it's raised questions for them, or it's reminded them of something. Like how often do you, well, I do it all the time, you cry when you're watching a movie. And it's not because I care about the person that just died, for example. It's because actually I remember that my mother died and it was devastating, and those feelings are coming back, so it's that thing that you can't go by people's reactions. You can't seek that external validation. So you have to get it from inside. You have to be able to take that step back and to be able to give yourself what you want, to think, do I resonate with what I'm saying and how I'm behaving? Am I happy with this? Do my actions fit with my values? And if they do, then fuck everyone else. Who cares? You'll find your tribe, and you'll find your people who fit with that, and fuck the rest of them. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the birds singing. It's probably telling me it's time to stop the video now. But yeah, anyway, so my rambly point of this video was that actually we need to start thinking of our imperfections as things that we love about ourselves. And also we need to start thinking about the fact that this external validation is not something that we should be chasing after. It really isn't, because it's so fleeting. And if you're relying on that rather than the core of yourself, then you're setting yourself on a path that, you know, this whole wobbly self-esteem thing will be something that you always struggle with. So I think next time it will be interesting to talk about how to connect with that internal validation a bit more. So I think I'm going to have a chat with a few more women about that. I'll choose some women who I think are super confident and see what comes up. But anyway, that's the second video. I'll see you next time.